This is Creating Your Encore Career and Becoming a Silver Entrepreneur with your host, Lynn Freest. Lynn will share ideas and expert advice from people that are walking in your shoes and living their encore careers, where they want and at the pace they want. You'll start a company of one with confidence and knowledge to live a fulfilled life of freedom and ease. Lynn is a coach and leadership consultant whose mission is to show senior leaders and experts how to start something refreshing and new after a full career in the corporate environment.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Creating Your Encore Career and Becoming a Silver Entrepreneur. Thanks for listening. With an Encore career, you can be creating value in the world beyond just winning the next pickleball game. You can work when you want, you can work where you want, and you can do the work you love. In other words, you can be living your dream. And if you're ready to get started today, please contact me at lynn@lynnfreest.com. Today is episode 181, and it's going to be a short review of making your Encore transition and finding your purpose. And this will be a short conversation over some things that I've been doing myself. We'll talk a little about what I've found in my journey. What are some of the ideas that I've encountered around making transitions to an Encore career? A little bit about finding purpose, that overarching thing of why you do what you do. A simple action that you can get started with. And then maybe just a few comments on the results I've had so far. To begin with, I want to encourage you to consider the Modern Elder Academy courses. There are two of them that I've taken that I found very beneficial. The first course is Making Transitions, which is a 6-week course. And the second course is Finding Your Purpose, which is an 8-week course. And there'll be a link to the Modern Elder Academy website, and you can find those on their online course things. And they're offered at least once or twice during the year, so you have opportunities to do it. Both of them were a really good experience for me. I learned a lot, and I found it was a rich mix of experts, as well as they gave time for small group collaboration. And then since the content came out over a period of weeks, you really had a chance to consume and reflect. And then in the end, you get access to that content going forward. So you can go back and again, step back into those ideas that you may have looked for some more understanding on. A little bit about my journey. I started my Encore career journey in 2015. So it's been about 7 years now. Quite frankly, I was looking forward to not retiring, but I did want to work for myself. And that's what I've been doing. Now, a couple of things that I've noticed, I can get lost in learning. I'm very interested in, I knew I needed to know some new skills. I'm always interested in new ideas. So that's one of the things as I found is, as opposed to stepping into actually working with people, sometimes I can get lost. Also found that while I was pretty structured and work gave me a lot of structure, I'm not always disciplined in action. And that's something, it's an ongoing basis. I've had to create new routines, new habits, as it were, things that would help me stay in action. The other thing is, I mentioned earlier, my curiosity. The curiosity is both a plus and a minus. Obviously, it keeps me learning new things, getting new skills. But on the other hand, it's a minus because it's easy to go down all kinds of rabbit holes with interesting things, especially whether it be technology or new ideas. You can find yourself, I've got stacks of books that I've read, all those kinds of things. Like I say, they're pluses and minuses. To the extent that they inform me, it's great. To the extent that they distract me, it's not always as useful. Now, I have done good work for people. I've found that some of the things that I can offer people are, recognizing patterns, finding connections, seeing maybe new ideas, new frameworks of how to look at things. So I have had success in working with people and helping them, but obviously it's a journey and I want to have more success. So the transitions course, that'll be the first one we talk about. Along with the transitions course, I'd recommend a book that's called Life is in the Transitions by Bruce Feiler. And there'll be a link for that in the show notes. So some of these ideas were in the course, some of the ideas were in his book. And quite frankly, each of these sections I'll be talking about is probably, as you said, the course itself was 6 weeks long. Obviously, we could spend more time than I'm going to be spending on this podcast. But a couple of the points from Bruce's book, be prepared for a nonlinear life. It could be as you're coming out of the corporate world, Things marched along as they were structured, all those kinds of things. Now, all of a sudden, the entrepreneurial life, or even just the plain retirement life, there's great flexibility. You can do what you want, where you want, when you want, but you have to find some structure that makes it sense for you anyway. Then the other thing they talked about was what they called life quakes. And that's just, again, with Bruce Feiler's work, we're all going through things that throw us off our game, or I don't know if upset is the right word, but whether it be not having a job any longer, maybe losing a parent or a spouse, or having the kids move out of the house, moving to a new location. There's always things going on that I guess will upset our routines, move us out of our comfort zone. And so we just need to get used to that, because that happens through life no matter what. And then also, quite frankly, there's an element involved in grieving. Some of people have talked the big dip as you go through the excitement of retirement and being free of the work demands, those kinds of things. But then after a while, it's kind of, oh man, what am I going to do next kind of a thing. And some of it is, can you let go of old routines, old habits, old frameworks, old ways of thinking? So there's a kind of a messy middle in there. And again, both the book and the Modern Elder Academy course on transitions, they spend a lot of time on the messy middle, and they encourage people, take time. One author I read said, after you retire, don't jump right into your next thing. Take a sabbatical. You can and do need some time to decompress from what you've been doing. So use a sabbatical time. Don't always just jump into the next set of list of activities, even if you've mapped out what you want to do. The other metaphor that they use is the transformation from a caterpillar to a butterfly. In between that is what's called chrysalis, and literally the caterpillar turns into sort of a soup before it reconstitutes as a butterfly. Again, this whole idea of you've got that messy middle, you're going to kind of be in the soup where you let go of what you were, but you haven't really figured out what the next thing is. So understand that. You may not be comfortable with it, but be patient with it. And there's going to be times when you get stuck. Just probably in your working life, you had times when things weren't going, you got stuck, you couldn't. So that happens in your Encore career too. Maybe you don't know a piece of technology, or maybe the clients just aren't coming in, or any number of things. And maybe you're just in a funk at the moment, but you're going to get stuck, and that's okay. And then you start thinking about how in your life have you gotten out of being stuck? Because I'm sure you've had that experience before, and there have been ways that you moved on from that. But I will say, for me, in general, the getting out of being stuck has to do with action. And maybe it's very small action. Sometimes it's just, I'm going to just sit down and write for 15 or 20 minutes about this subject and see what comes out. Or I'm going to sit there and edit this podcast or whatever it is for 10 or 15 minutes, just so I can get started. And those kinds of things, I think, help build momentum. Now, the other thing about transitions that they spend a fair amount of time in the Modern Elder Academy courses is what they call the 6 Ps of transition. In other words, transitions aren't just about one piece of your life. It's about your whole life. So the 6 Ps that they mention are personal transitions, physical transitions. You got to get used to the fact that you're now different than you were 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Psychological transitions. The mindset, the thinking of an entrepreneur is different than that of a corporate professional. Then there's going to be parting and passing transitions, whether it's leaving the old job or maybe transitions in family life, whatever it may be. Then certainly we go back to professional transitions. Again, you're going to start an Encore career. You're starting a new job. So there's a professional transition going on. And finally, they just talk about the overall idea of a purpose transition. And again, you may not find the one thing. In fact, as we went through this class, several people said, I have 3 or 4 purposes. Then we go back to this idea I've talked about before, the portfolio career. It would help to not have 4 or 5, maybe 2 or 3, but there can be different purposes in your life. You may have a purpose to use the skills you've built over a long career and get paid for it. You may have a purpose to give back to the community. You may have a purpose to be sure you're staying connected with friends and family. So all those things are there. And again, is there a right answer? There's only your answer, and you have to work on seeing what that is. And you'll probably be working on that. It'll be a journey. It won't be a destination. Somebody said, yeah, I'll find my purpose. your purpose will evolve. The purpose you have today may be different than the purpose you have next year or 5 or even 10 years from now. So understand that purpose evolves. And going more in depth on the whole idea of purpose, some of this is reflecting on your successes and your strengths. What are the things you've already learned to do in life? Now, there may be some new things you want to learn to do in life, but again, finding purpose, I think, is a little bit about reflecting on what you've done. And it's not your titles, it's not your positions. And again, it may be you had a purpose as a parent, you had a purpose as a caregiver. There may be new purposes that come in, but think about how the strengths and successes you've had in the past could map onto those things. Another piece that comes into, and this also comes from Marie Kondo with the decluttering piece, what brings you joy? And she said, you throw out anything that when you pick it up doesn't bring you joy. But I think that's still true. As you look at some of the things you've done in the past, what kind of sparks your imagination or what gets you a little bit excited? What are the things that, because it could be different. You may have been good at something and you did that for a long career, but now maybe you want to use your organizational skills in a nonprofit setting or any number of things. So, or maybe project management skills can work well in the healthcare field if you were in manufacturing before. So it's those things where think about what were the elements of the things you did that bring you joy. Now, another book that I'm recommending that goes with the whole idea of, and that's Longevity Lifestyle by Design. And it's by Mike Dreck and friends. And he's got several books out, but this one was interesting. So it's how do you create your lifestyle by design? Again, it's broadly focused around purpose. But he starts out by saying, your fundamental mindset as you go into retirement, and neither one is right or wrong, but you could be growth. In other words, I've got interesting things I want to do, or it could be comfort. I'm going to be happy just doing things with my family, playing with the grandkids, whatever it may be. You may want to stay in your comfort zone and do things you already know how to do. And that's fine too. But sometimes it's helpful to think through that. And it could change over time. It could be that you'll start off in more of a comfort mode. I'm going to reconnect with my family. I'm going to do some traveling, whatever it may be. But then there may become an itch saying, I'd like to do this, or I'd like to become that kind of a person. So those are the things that comfort or growth is neither good or bad. They're just different. And another way to think of comfort is it's both being and serving. It's some people say, I want to really learn more about myself, or I want to look into the wisdom of others or something like that. So it could be that you want to spend more time just learning to be who you are and not necessarily doing something. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's perfectly fine. The last topic I'd like to talk about in the purpose course, and both in the book and in the course, they talk about it as ikigai, which is a Japanese concept for how do you create purpose for yourself. And it's a wonderful exercise. You can Google it and you'll get a lot of information about it. But it's basically 4 arenas you look at. And these are normally how they describe it, it's an overlapping thing. But you start off with what you love. What are the things you love to do? What are the things you love about life? Those kinds of things. Then the second thing is, what are you good at? Where are the places where you've already had success or you want to try to have success? So what are the things you are good at or you want to become good at? Then the third facet is, what does the world need? What are the things that would make a difference in the world? It could be you want to be really great at cross-stitching or anything like that. Okay, does the world need that? They need more beauty, but, are they clamoring for cross-stitching? Good question. Don't know that. And the final piece is, which would apply if you're focused on an Encore career, is what can you be paid for? In other words, sometimes you could be an extremely good gardener. The world needs people who have those skills. There may be pay involved, but there may not be. So that's, again, in the Encore career, as I think of it, there's probably some piece in there that how does that circle overlap with the other circles? So those are just a few thoughts that I have on going about finding purpose. And I'll give you a quick next action here. And this is not something that's the final answer or anything like that. But as we think of longevity, think about what do you want to do in the next 10 years or even 20 years, because you could very likely have that. And a 10-year plan could be different than the 20-year plan. So it's not just about what do I want to do tomorrow or this quarter or even this year. But think about, what would I like to be doing, feeling, experiencing in 10 years, for example? And then you can think, this is really just a thought exercise. It's not to really create detailed 10-year plan. Quite frankly, whether it be in life or business, I'm not sure you'd never experience that the way, because you think, okay, if now we're in 2023, what did the world look like in 2013? It was significantly different than it is today. And you can expect in 2033, it's going to look different too. So some of these things are more just to kind of create an intention, or the things that you, at least as of today, you might want to explore or do, or how you want to approach things. Now, the final thing, I wanted to share what some of my results have been in my journey of this Encore career. Well, I have developed a fair amount of online and marketing skills. I am by no means an expert. I have people who can help me that I actually hire in some cases, but I have developed some skills, marketing skills, at least an awareness of the elements of creating an Encore career. I have created a podcast around it that you're listening to now, and we're on 180 episodes, and I hope to continue that. I have had that opportunity to create that and sustain it over time. I'm a member of several robust communities, and I think this is a big piece of maintaining your momentum as you go into an Encore career. Is sometimes your communities, your work, your colleagues at work, that's where you got some energy around. You could discuss things with them and things like that. You need to find new friends, as it were. And I've been blessed to find several really robust communities of people, some older than me, some younger than me, but all that are interested in growing their businesses. So I encourage you to look for new sets of friends, new communities to be in. I've remained curious while I've gone through the valley of despair, and I've learned new things, sometimes struggled to learn new things, and it is hard to adopt some of the new technologies in particular, and just new concepts. How do I sell myself? That's not something I was naturally good at, and I have gotten better at talking about that. But in general, I've remained curious. And so that whatever comes next, I still think there's wonderful opportunities out there. And finally, while I've had some success in the Encore career, haven't made $1 million yet, but we're still working on that. And that may not be my goal. It may be something a little less than that, but still looking forward to the progress I can make. Well, what we covered today was a little bit about my journey, how I've started, the ideas around making transitions, finding your purpose and ways to think about that, a simple action that you can take to look into the future for yourself, and then briefly some of the results that I've had. So with an Encore career, the rewards are great. You can be creating value in the world beyond just winning that next pickleball game. You can work when you want, where you want, and you can be doing the work you love. So if you're ready to get started today, please contact me at lynn@lynnfrias.com, or head over to my website, lynnfrias.com. You can listen to a few podcasts and get on the email list. So we'll see you soon. Thanks for listening.